All right, welcome into Unsafe Spaces. I'm Randy Cross. Thanks for joining us. I want to remind you, not only can you find this on our Twitter page, our Facebook page, also on our website, unsafespacesUSA.com. Tell a friend. Hell, tell somebody you don't even really like, but you want to share something kind of cool. All right, thanks a lot. Let's get at it. Let's start first with this last week that was. And as last week was, and the week before that, we're talking about some hurricanes kicking some serious butt. Hurricane Irma came up through the Caribbean, drew the bullseye on the state of Florida, went over actually briefly into the Gulf side, but then ended up just coming right straight up the middle of the state of Florida. And thank God it did, because it wasn't quite the epic storm that they had anticipated. A lot of water damage, a lot of people affected, but you'll see all the stats and whatnot. It was supposed to be right up there in the 1, 2, 3 range. Well, it wasn't. And you can say that about a storm that was only, 135 to 150 mile an hour winds at some point. But we got lucky. And I think everyone in general kind of dodged one when it came to this storm. But God bless all those people, not only in Florida going through what they're going through and cleaning up, but also still the people, don't forget them, down in Texas. Number 2 last week, in the week that was, Hillary Clinton back in the news. And she's the thing that won't go away. She's just does not, the old don't go away mad, just go away. Well, she doesn't believe in it. She does some good work as a clown, because right now that's what she is. She is basically a clown, and she has never heard of the old saying that excuses are like, well, certain orifices. They all stink. And she's got plenty of them, though, up to, according to some people that are keeping track of this stuff, 36 different excuses as to why she lost? I guess her mirror's broken at home, or she doesn't have any, because that's where the excuse should end. Number 3. Donald Trump, our president, had one heck of a week. A lot of pithy little comments. My favorites, I should say, number 1 was he dubbed the North Korean dictator, the little fat fella with the glasses, Rocket Man. I'm not sure if he checked with Elton John and got the rights to that. People had a bit of a problem with that, which I understand to a degree. And he retweeted a GIF, which was actually kind of funny. Not only does he spend a little time talking about Rocket Man there, he also saves a little time for Hillary Clinton. And he retweeted this
on Twitter that shows him hitting a golf ball and then the golf ball striking Hillary Clinton and knocking her down. You see it there. The President of the United States retweeted that this morning.
Oh, the humanity.
Why?
Why? I don't know. Maybe because it's kind of funny. And the fact that it never really happened makes it almost funnier. But that's just me. I digress. I'm sorry. Next up on the week that was is something that's happened in the last couple of days, but it's something that's been reinforced. And that is, the European Vacation, one of the great vacation movies with Chevy Chase, would not be real makeable right now because there aren't too many very safe areas, it seems, over in Europe, whether it's in London, Paris, Barcelona. I don't care where you go. There is stuff happening. Number 1 was the London subway attack that an 18-year-old's been arrested for, and they have other suspects in mind in this case. It debilitated a train. Thankfully, it was not that effective. Of course, if you're one of the 20 to 30 odd people that were injured by this, you would argue the fact of how effective it was, but it could have been much, much worse. Next in the European problems, not only do we have people trying to blow up bombs and do things like that, now you got to worry about acid. And I'm not talking about Timothy Leary and taking acid trips. No, we're talking about people being splashed with acid. Specifically, 4 female tourists attacked in Marseille in a train station with acid. Now, everybody's okay, varying degrees of any kind of injuries involved, but I don't know. I don't have any thought anytime soon of spending my hard-earned money until they prove over there that they can have a little better security, and things like that aren't going to happen. And I'm sorry, that's not luck of the dice. That's not, hey, what the heck? I'll give it a shot. If that's your attitude, go ahead, give it a shot. I'll take a vacation over here. Next up on our list is the college football and NFL weekend. And we got a few different things for you here. It was a fun weekend of games. We're going to start off with Clemson, who played Louisville, Lamar Jackson, their quarterback, and it appeared this was going to be an epic game. Well, we were epically wrong. 47-21, Clemson wins. Lamar Jackson doesn't pile up crazy stats, decent stats. Kelly Bryant, the quarterback for Clemson, was featured. And if you thought that Clemson has a problem with depth and they don't have that many guys ready to step right in, just like Kelly Bryant is now and a lot of other players, check out this young man, last name Etienne, who is the quarterback.
There's Etienne. And breaks a couple of tackles. Look out, he's a sprinter.
That's fast, by the way.
Shades of things to come. Welcome to college football. Travis Etienne. I just had a sense he was going to bust out late.
An embarrassment of riches. An embarrassment. Come on
81 yards.
Come on in, 9. We'll give you a few carries here, kid.
And that's pretty much what Clemson's roster looks like, soup to nuts. So you've been warned. It's going to be that kind of a year. If Dabo's guys can hold up their end of the bargain, they could have a pretty epic team. Next on the list, I got to recognize them. Don't particularly like them, but I will recognize them. Number 4, USC, played Stanford. You kind of figured, hey, you know what? This could be a nice little matchup. This could be something where something good happens. Well, SC stomped on Stanford. Then this last weekend, they play Texas. Texas puts up a hell of a fight. Texas actually at one point looked like they were going to win it. But SC comes back, and SC kicks a field goal at the end and ends up winning this thing. I know a lot of people that like to, I wouldn't call it gambling, but like to wager meals and adult beverages and things like that on football games. They lost a lot of both those on this game here, because if you didn't stay up for the end, SC did come back and kick this field goal and end up winning.
Threw a laser to Armani Foreman, and Texas, with 45 seconds remaining in the game, lead by 2, 16-14.
And what a drive engineered by Ellinger.
The left, our first overtime. Darnold
Yep,
back to throw.
overtime's over.
Up the middle, has time, fires in the end zone. Burnett caught it. Touchdown. One play, 25-yard strike. He beat Chris Boyd. Extra point coming for the Trojans.
And that was Matt Leinart, Heisman Trophy winning Trojan, standing in the end zone there in that last shot.
Schmidt the holder. Good
nice
snap.
throw.
Kick is on the way. This looks good. Hanging in the right upright. He's got it. And the Trojans have won it in the second overtime on a 43-yard field goal by Chase McGrath.
And you see those crowd shots. Stands were full. It was a sellout for SC. First time in a few years they've done that. But the Rams the next day, they didn't have quite that big a crowd. In fact, probably about half of that crowd showed up for the pro game. Next up, UCLA. UCLA went to Memphis. UCLA lost to Memphis, 48-45. An embarrassment to anybody that goes to UCLA, an embarrassment to anybody that played at UCLA. I'm in that list. An embarrassment to anybody that has ever thought about playing defense, because no one at UCLA knows how to play defense. No one at UCLA knows how to coach people that play defense. And if UCLA wasn't a public school, hungry for money, that doesn't have much of it, they'd probably buy their coach out and fire him. Unbelievable. Bad, bad, bad football. Great for Memphis. Riley Ferguson, Their coach, Mike Norvell, great job by him. Share the results.
His first interception of his young career.
For a touchdown. And they're going to fake it. Patterson will throw to the end zone, up for grabs, and it is intercepted by UCLA.
Big play.
Picked off by Octavius Spencer.
Wow. That's a gutsy call by Coach Marvell.
Excuse me. Coach Marvell's name is Norvell. Mike, probably to his wife and friends and family, but it's Norvell, not Marvell. I make those mistakes all the time, so I'm not knocking. I'm just correcting. All right, next up in the scoreboard for us is LSU and Mississippi State. And LSU was going to Mississippi State. LSU has dominated Mississippi State. I don't think they've lost a game at Mississippi State since like 99, something like that. So LSU's looked okay the first few games. Well, they got run. They got used and abused in Starksville, and people got a chance to look at Dan Mullen's football team when it's led by a dual threat, highly athletic quarterback. They're going to be kind of hard to beat.
Tonight.
3rd and 1. Hit that ball on the hip well, and Mixon's going to walk in. Oh, what a night for Fitzgerald. He's going to pass off of it, and another touchdown. Dedrick Thomas. Nick Fitzgerald is lighting them up.
Their very first date was a football game here at Mississippi State.
Really?
And so it's just fitting that 2 years later on their anniversary, Eric asked Caitlin to marry him on the field. He said,
Wow. Was she wearing a T-shirt, or was that actually a dress? I couldn't really notice, but good. Good for them. Good for them. Getting married, and Mississippi State's heading to Athens. They play the Bulldogs this coming Saturday. And if they beat LSU 37-7, I would think I'd hazard a guess that the Bulldogs better be ready, because they could have an epic butt whipping in their future, the way that Dan Mullen's football team is playing right now. All right, let's go to the game that a lot of people saw the end of, the best end to a football game we saw this weekend, even with the SC game, even with everything else. How about Florida beating Tennessee? The Gators. Not last breath, last chance, last play. Their quarterback, Felipe Franks, gets flushed from the pocket and throws a touchdown behind the Tennessee defenders. Now, as you watch this
20-20 game, you think,
remember,
all right, Florida's going to get the ball.
Yeah.
I think we're all in here thinking,
hand the ball off or take a knee and let's go
deeper
to
than the deepest. Can't get by anybody.
Last chance. Franks fires.
What?
Deep. Tyree Cleveland, touchdown.
The throw was amazing, but what got him the opportunity was the scramble and the escapability there, Coach.
And that's what we talked about.
Yeah.
That's what he brings to the table.
How about the fact that the defense screwed up and let one of their receivers behind him? How about that one? How do you do that? How in the hell do you do that? I've seen the balls tipped in the air, like in that Auburn-Georgia game a couple years ago, and the receiver keeps running and gets behind the DB. But on a last breath, last chance throw, how does anybody get behind somebody defensively if you're doing it right? And obviously they weren't doing it right. But Florida pulls it out, and it's going to be a long, long week before Tennessee gets a chance to play football again and get that taste out of their mouth. Let's go over to the NFL. Some of the big scores over the NFL weekend that just big NFL weekend that just happened. The Patriots, who lost on the first weekend of the season, the first Thursday of the weekend, went to New Orleans and abused Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. They had no problem. I think Brady threw for 400 and something yards, more yards than any other 40-year-old quarterback ever. I don't know. I used to watch some of these NFL games this year. I did NFL games on TV for 20 years. And the NFL game is getting as close as you could possibly get to 7-on-7. That happens to let, a dozen or so fat guys stand around and watch. Because it's just throwing and going. And they did an unbelievable job, did the Patriots. The next score that stood out to me were the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are for real. They beat New England in the first game. This game, they went to Philadelphia, or the Philadelphia Eagles came to Kansas City, and they beat them too. Alex Smith, Kareem Hunt. You've got some legit football going on in Kansas City. Good for Andy Reid and good for Chief fans. These are some of the best fans, friendliest fans, and loyal fans of the NFL community. Next up on the list, the Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, excuse me. And it's not because they won. Denver kind of run them. In Denver, long delay. The greatest synopsis of how'd you spend your delay, the Cowboy players talked about spending their time, the hour or so because of the lightning in the area, working on schemes and working on the game plan. And they asked Denver guys how they spent their time. And the Denver guys said, yeah, I don't know. We had some peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and some Gatorade, and we just kind of sat around and talked. Yeah, no big deal. Well, they played that relaxed, and they ran the Dallas Cowboys out of the stadium. They did a great job, led by that defense. I'm not going to downplay anything that Trevor Siemian did, the quarterback, or anybody on the offense for the Broncos, but that game, the tone was set by that Denver Bronco defense. Next up on the list was a game that happened last night. The Atlanta Falcons in that beautiful new stadium hosting the Green Bay Packers for the third time in the last, 18, 19 games, including the playoffs, or 20 games, regular season games. They beat them last night, 34-23. Matt Ryan and the offense played really well. The defense was the difference again. They abused Aaron Rodgers and the Packers at times. They played them in the NFC Championship game last year, and they played them in the regular season last year. And the result is the Falcons are 3-0. And as of right now, you've got to think the Falcons should be and are the best team in the National Football Conference. See if they can stay there, but you're going to hear about that 28-3 stuff. You heard about it like crazy last night on Sunday Night Football. You're going to hear it forevermore until they raise a Lombardi trophy. And if they do that this year, it'll be some strong-willed individuals that led that charge. All right, final little thing in the week that was is something that went on yesterday in Oakland. The New York Jets, laughable in and of themselves of late, played at the Oakland Raiders. And this is not so much about the game, because the game was a joke. The Raiders had their way. Any old way they wanted, they had that way with the New York Jets. But Marshawn Lynch, the newest member of the Oakland Raiders, I guess over the last few months, high-profile guy at least, decided he was in a good mood and things are going well. And, well, this broke out on the sideline, then started on the scoreboard screen.
Hold it down for the Bay, reppin' Oakland. If it wasn't for that granddaddy smoking, that's what I mean for sure. Know what I mean for sheets. Know what I mean for sure. Know what I mean for sheets. Know what I mean for sure. Know what I mean for sheets. Know what I mean for sure. Know what I mean for sheets. I don't put that on, that's my word. I don't put that on, that's my word. I don't think they know, that's my word. I don't put that on, that's my word. Oh, I do a little shitty, but have I lost you? You still with me? Baziking, kicking and sneaking, all in the dog, the nappy frog still freaking. On leaks, beneath the
And the fans went wild. Fans went wild. I heard from a friend that was at that game that said the whole stadium went crazy when they started showing that on the big scoreboard. Though the people right behind it were watching it the whole time. Comment from a player for the New York Jets after the game. He called that display by Marshawn Lynch and the Raiders demoralizing. And the only question I had was, you mean more demoralizing than being a member of the New York Jets? They suck. Marshawn, not so much. That's a great, great show by Marshawn Lynch. All right, let's move on to next segment of the show, our Butthurt of the Week. All right, Butthurt of the Week. Number one on Butthurt of the Week is a repeat. Not only from last week, but from previous weeks, because she's kind of earned it of late. Jennifer Lawrence is involved in a movie by the name of Mother? Hover? What? Mother? That reaction is kind of what Rex Reed, the legendary Hollywood reviewer, kind of had in his review, where he said this movie is more wet dream than bad dream, with the subtlety of a chainsaw. Also referred to it as the worst movie of the year, maybe the century. Said it was a delusional freak show. And my favorite part of his review was when he referred to it as pretentious twaddle. Which, twaddle is one of those words that sounds dirty but isn't, kind of like kerfuffle. And look those both up. But it was, I guess it was a good way to have a little bit of fun at somebody else's excuse. And why not somebody that's worth $1 gazillion like Jennifer Lawrence that wants to tell everybody not to go see her movies? Well, Rex Reed doubled down on nobody seeing this movie. Because with a review like that, worst of the year, if not the century, guaranteed your box office numbers will be down just a freckle. If you're one of the people that, when you watch football, you don't want to see people have fun. You hate it when guys celebrate. You hate it when there were pre-planned celebrations. Well, right now, the NFL and scoring's not for you. Check this out. You know, the Steelers, they've got a new wide receiver, JoJo Smith-Schuster from USC. He's dynamic. He's good.
Roethlisberger on 3rd and 1 on the toss into the end zone. Touchdown, Juju Smith-Schuster.
Roll them bones. Roll those dice. There you go. That's a group celebration. That used to be a 15-yard penalty. There were a couple of last night in the Falcons game. Devontae Freeman scores a touchdown. His left guard, Levitri, goes to the back of the end zone and holds his arms up like this. And Devontae looks and shoots a free throw into the hoop. Hey, they're adults, but they're just guys having fun. It's a stupid game. I'm glad they're finally lightening up a little bit and letting guys have a little fun. Anybody catch the fight Saturday night? Golovkin, Triple G against Canelo Alvarez. It seems there was a bit of a problem. Now, if you don't know the result, I'll ruin it for you here. It was a draw. One was a split decision. One was a split score on the card. One had the fight judged for Golovkin, and another one had it 118 to 110. That basically means that Alvarez dominated this fight. And from all reports, it was far from that. If anything, Golovkin got screwed. He should have won this fight. Now, there's some great legendary boxers and great legendary trainers and commentators. Stephen A. Smith, by the way, is not one of those when it comes to boxing. And he was on the other night with ESPN, and he was talking about this fight. And he was also talking to Teddy Atlas. And we're going to see Teddy Atlas's response, because he's one of those legendary people that knows what the hell he's talking about.
To be trained, and on one given night, he can have his hand raised and be called champion of the world and make life fair, make the world fair. It's the only sport that can do that. The sport is beautiful, but the administrators of this sport, they stink.
I love Teddy Atlas. He is the best. And that sums it up. And that lets you know what what an abomination that result was. Let's move on to our last butthurt story. And it's not really a butthurt story. I guess you'd call it the nature calls story. But it happened in the Philadelphia game. The Eagles, Dexter McDougal, had to go. And when you got to go, you got to go. Doesn't matter where you are. So if you're on the sideline, you get a cup, you stand up against a machine where nobody can see. You have guys hold a couple of towels around you. In Super Bowl 16, this happened to Jack Hacksaw Reynolds, our middle linebacker with the Niners, on our first Super Bowl winner. He had to go so bad on the sideline, same deal, but he was surrounded by players and towels and everything else, and he went on the sideline. Well, McDougal was, can't say, everyone's got to be famous for something. And Gatorade, famous for Gatorade. Coaches get Gatorade showers, none of which are a result of what McDougal was doing, hopefully. Well, eventually, I guess it is a recycled version of Gatorade. But that'll do that for Butthurt of the Week. All right? I thought I'd share that. It's kind of a fun thing. And all right, never pass up a chance to mention the name Jack Hacksaw Reynolds. Let's move on to real world news. And we'll go to Spain for our first story. And this is something I've seen in the past. But do you ever get told by your mom? Where you first heard it was when you're really, really little. And they tell you not to play with your food. Well, evidently, mothers in Europe, specifically Spain, don't spend much time telling their kids, don't play with your food, because that lesson wouldn't stick anyway. Because these tomato psychos over in Spain, they've got a whole festival just getting down and dirty with the maters. Check this out. Look at that. You better have your mouth closed. There's no telling where those tomatoes have been. I love it. Is that fantastic? It just strikes me as humorous, and it's something that's fun to kind of take a look at, because this has happened every single year for a long, long time. Next up was something that happened last night. And if you watched the Falcons' dismantling of the Green Bay Packers, you might have missed this. This was the Emmys. It was on last night about 9 o'clock or so, and was hosted by Stephen Colbert. And, you could knock me over with a feather. What? Did it get political? Could it possibly do that? Well, you've got to remember, these are celebrities, and they have their First Amendment rights. They can say what they like, and they can do what they like. They have their rights of assembly. They're smarter than you. They're much better looking than you. They've had a ton more plastic surgery than you. And you know what? They get to go on vacations to places that you could only dream of. Then they get to have their own little awards and tell you what a schlub and low life you and other people kind of like you are. So they got that going for them, which is nice. All right, next up on our list here of stories on real world news is the city of St. Louis. Yeah, St. Louis, there was a murder trial from 2011 of a shooting. It was an attempted conviction of a police officer, a law enforcement officer, for a shooting back in 2011 of an African-American man. And it was returned as a not guilty verdict, and kind of craziness ensued. Last 3 nights, craziness has ensued, and it hasn't stopped or knocked down too much since the results of the trial became official.
As police worked to clear the streets, protesters in St. Louis turned violent for a second night.
Okay, oh my God. Someone just smashed the window at Blueberry Hill.
Not Blueberry. Get Chubby Checker out here right away. Well, somebody's going to smash something, okay? That's the new protest. Do you remember the old protest? I mean, I'm old enough to remember old protest. Old protests were quiet, or they eventually morphed into loudspeakers and slogans, but they were peaceful protests. Now you've got to break windows. Now when things happen, you got to burn stuff down. Nice moves, all in all. And again, you have the freedom of speech, the First Amendment right. You have a freedom of assembly, the right to assembly. But you don't have a right to destroy other people's property. And that's something I have a serious problem with when they start having protests like that. And when the police don't enforce it, that's something that actually gets kind of out of control. And I don't know. Does it happen here where I live? Not too close. Does it happen where you live? Probably a decent chance. It happens not that far from where I am right now. I don't know. But, that's part of our real world as we know it right now. Let's go to a little lighter subject again and check out our guys and gals at Tinfoil Hat. All right, number 1 in the Tinfoil Hat. Now, you might have missed this, and if you don't have it on your calendar, I want to remind you that September 23rd is this Saturday. Because, by the way, September 23rd is the end of the world. Now, I know we've talked a few of these stories, but there's a story that's related to the planet Nibiru, which is the other extra planet out there that's swinging by and is going to cause all this apocalyptic stuff. And it's all tied into Sister Lucia, who was one of the young students or the young people that in Fatima that saw the Virgin Mary. And it has to do with an earthquake and massive landslide in the Canary Islands, which is going to cause a tsunami, but not your normal tsunami. I'm talking about a big tsunami. Now, I think this is a big tsunami. Surf's up, dude. Yeah, you know what? I have full confidence there will be idiots on surfboards trying to ride it when it comes. But this particular tsunami they're talking about that's going to hit this Saturday is supposed to be over 1,000 feet high. That one was just a little piker. It was probably only about 500. But it's supposed to be a 1,000-foot high tsunami that's supposed to hit the East Coast. So you got that to look forward to. Hopefully it happens after your team wins. All right? That's all I got to say about that. Next up is the devil. Well, kind of the devil by way of a nun. There was this letter or transcript that was written 300 years ago by a nun who'd been possessed by the devil. And in it, they were talking about, all kinds of wild stuff. And again, as these kind of stories tend to do, they link back into the Bible. They link back into the future. They link back into the end of the world. So again, you got that to look forward to because for 300 years, this same transcript sat around and nobody knew what the hell it said. None. Zero. Somebody designed a special program. They put it into a computer and presto, you now know how the world's going to end. You got that going for you, and that's nice. All right, last one in our tinfoil hat category goes back to my old home area. I grew up in Tarzana, California, which is in the San Fernando Valley. Yeah, that valley. Remember Valley Girls and Valley stuff and Valley this and Valley that? That's where I grew up in L.A. Well, in the San Fernando Valley, we had this sighting that took place coincidentally, and it relates to a couple of, at least one bad movie and one bad TV series that Hollywood had a little part of. Third Phase of the Moon shows you this.
Legitimate fried salsa. Oh my God.
That's a Stargate. It's not a salsa.
That is a no joke.
Tell Rachel to get my phone or get my camera and get out here.
I mean, for sure. Can't you see it? It's a salsa. God bless these people, and thank you to those fine folks at Third Phase of the Moon for putting that out. Right now, let's go to the feel-good story and my boy, the hamster, or I should say the hamsters. But only one of them won't look at it. Come on, look back. I know you can do it. Look back. Oh, God, again, he's close. This is a fantastic story. This is a story about a kid named Jake Pratt. He's a student at Vestavia Hills High School, which is in Alabama. And he has Down syndrome, born with Down syndrome. And he plays in a game, and it's set up with the coaches. And we see some of these stories all the time where the coaches agree this kid's going to get in the game, and he's done such amazing work for our program. I want to give him a chance to score a touchdown. He's been a manager, but we're going to give him a chance to score a touchdown. Check this out. They're all chanting Jake.
Hey man, how you doing? I see that famous guy.
Yes, y'all.
Hey, I'm so glad to meet you.
You too.
Yeah. You Jake?
Yes, y'all.
You know I'm a Pelham Panther.
Yeah.
We don't like them rebels. You're a rebel.
Yeah.
You tell Buddy Anderson I say hello.
Okay, I do that.
Thanks for coming today. You look good in orange.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.
You too, Tyler.
You're welcome. See you, bud. Hey, bro.
That's fantastic. And God bless Jake Pratt. So glad he got a chance to do that. And a special thank you and hi to Dabo Sweeney, the head coach of the defending national champion Clemson Tigers. Because if you don't think he doesn't have literally dozens, if not a couple hundred people and guests on the sideline for games this year, you're crazy. And for him to be sort of pulled real quick in there and remember this kid and remember every part of this story. We just need more of these kind of stories just to remind people that there are people out there that care about a lot of things, including each other. All right? But that'll do it for our feel-good story of the week. I want to remind you, when it comes to social media, same places. There is unsafespaces.com, unsafespacesusa.com. Check there. Send any suggestions to producer at unsafespacesusa.com. You find us on SoundCloud, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Copy it. Send it to your friends. Send it to people to get a chance to look at our podcast or listen to our podcast as it may be. Hope you enjoyed this week's version. And right now, time for us to say happy trails.
Happy trails to you until